Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. You know, I looked at the lumber prices again this morning and I really thought, okay, there's going to be some price relief here. We're going to start seeing some price drops. We're not. Before I started the video, lumber futures were trading at 827 per thousand. We are so close to the all-time high. It's practically there. This during a time when you would expect a slowdown in the building market. You would expect a slowdown in building supplies. You'd expect the demand to drop and the inventory to rise. And when you take into consideration that Canada is just about ready to have the tariffs lifted, moving from, I think it was, 22% down to like 9 on their softwood imports into the United States, you would think with this news that the prices would be dropping, that the supply would be increasing coming into a time when the demand should be dropping. I mean, none of this stuff makes sense. I thought about it. It was just like, okay, so maybe it's something outside the building industry. We've talked about this before. Maybe it's log prices. Maybe it's, we talked about wildfires in the past. We've talked about a lot of stuff that has affected the lumber prices going from, you know, beetles up in Canada to, everything. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have affected the prices of lumbers. I mean, it's everything that possibly could has happened. And I don't know what it's going to be like going into the summer if these prices are where they are in the middle of winter. I talked to some of these guys around here and I said, what do you think is going on? And most of them just say it, it's just like people need lumber, people are building. And I'm thinking, maybe, but there's been a slowdown. I mean, I can feel it, I can see it. It's wintertime. Things slow down. They always do. And then I got to thinking, well, maybe it's the fiber, right? Sawmills, they produce a lot of stuff. And lumber's not just the only product. I mean, they also produce pulp and chips and, they have a lot of biomass that comes from the production of lumber. They just don't sell just the lumber. They sell a lot of stuff. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's the demand for the pulp that is dropping because I know that China was a major buyer of the pulp here in the United States. And I know that recycling has started to kick in a major way. So not only do we have like recycling and we have a drop in the pulp demand, I noticed that even like the pulp industry in general has had a lot of like changes occurring in it. Like if you typed in pulp mills over the last 2 years, you would see that a lot of them were getting shut down. A lot of them, like if there was fires, they wouldn't do any repairs. They would just like, it's like, hey, tough luck. We're not rebuilding this one. Up in Maine, there was a story of how a few uh, paper mills were shut down up there. At the same time, this one, geez, I want to say it was like 7Ds, and I think that was Seven Dragons, which is a Chinese company, like one of the largest Chinese production paper companies in the world. I can't remember. I did a video on it a long time ago. They set up shop up there. So there's been this really weird disruption inside of the pulp and paper industry. So I'm almost wondering if it has a little bit more to do with that, where these tariffs I don't think they've quite ended yet as far as Canada goes. I think they still have the 20% tariff. So, but I have noticed a lot more Canadian lumber starting to roll into the yard here, and it could be the fiber situation. Where recycling is kicking in and the demand for pulp is dropping. And that's hard to think considering that the demand for like toilet paper and stuff like that is like gone off the charts. With everybody leaving the office and going to work at home, I think there was a lot less paper being produced because of that. because of everybody just basically, working from their own office at home and not needing, the paper shuffling that was typically happening at the office. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff happening out there. And when it comes to building into the future, it's going to get really expensive. It's going to get real expensive. You know, if it was expensive, I mean, we saw news articles all summer long talking. I think what was the average increase to building a home went up like $15,000. If we go into the summer at high prices, we are going to see much higher prices by the time the building season really kicks into gear. And if the economy is churning around and rocking and rolling and, easy money credit flowing out to everybody and, jobs are everywhere, you're going to see the demand for lumber really, really go up. And I can't imagine how high it can go. You know, people ask me all the time, I was just like, well, what do you think of the housing market? What do you think of the housing market? And I think about the Federal Reserve and what they did to the housing market more than I think about what the housing market is. A lot of people are like, well, buddy of mine bought a house, a year and a half ago, whatever. He just sold it for, $45,000 profit or whatever. And I'm thinking, man, there's people who've done way better than that. But then how is it that there could even be a real estate market when you had so many people who were asking for forbearance, when you had the Federal Reserve buying up so many mortgage-backed securities, when you had so much papering over of the situation that was causing the housing market to drop, totally artificially obscuring the market, and then people want to say how great it is? I mean, okay, I really don't feel that way. When things are at their peak, when things have reached their all-time highs, you got to be careful at that time. That's usually the time that you have to usually take your profits, you know, stand by the sides for a little bit, because the chances of this, coming down from this all-time high of 900 per thousand, it would only take a little bit of rise in interest rates, making the home building almost impossible to be profitable from at this level. And I just feel that we're really setting ourselves up for a pretty bad predicament if we ever see an interest rates where, or a situation in which interest rates will begin to rise. I got to go into work. Uneducated economist. You guys let me know.